Generate your motivation. There were a couple of questions here. So both of them have to do with karma. When we do purification practice, how actually do these accumulated, how do these destroy accumulated negative karma? Well, you can see that by the four opponent powers are the opposite mental states and actions to those that we did when we did something negative. Yeah, so that's one way. They're, the complete opposite. And then would doing good deeds, like acts of kindness and so forth, have the same result, or does that just create positive karma and not undo any negative karma? So we need all four opponent powers, yeah? And creating good deeds is one of them. It's the one of doing some kind of remedial action. Now, when you're doing, some virtuous action, you have a motivation, benevolent motivations towards sentient beings, you have refuge, then that becomes the power of, repairing the relationship. Yeah. But then you also need regret for the negative actions, and you need a determination not to do them again. Yeah. Because, it's the same kind of, just even in a worldly sense, if we did something that offended a friend, giving that friend a present and having a nice motivation towards them is good, but we do need to apologize. And, and we need to kind of in ourselves say, I'm going to change my behavior. So the same way with purification, we need all four things to purify. Okay? Makes some sense to you? Yeah? Because otherwise, if we never have regret for our negative actions, yeah, what happens if we just skip that one of having regret? Yeah, if you don't regret your negative actions, then what's going to happen? You're going to keep doing them. So the regret is the first one, and it's really the most important one for purification because, doing a virtuous action is good, changing your motivation towards the other person is good, but if we don't regret the destructive action we did, then, we're just going to keep doing that kind of thing. Okay? Then the second question is, they said, I understand that only our karmic mind stream goes with us at the time of death. It's our mind stream which carries the seeds of karma. It's not a karmic mind stream. Okay, there's a lot of other things that are in the mind stream, not just karma. Okay, but if I have created a lot of positive karma in this lifetime and done some purification of existing negative karma of many lifetimes, why does this lifetime of creating good karma not be what ripens at the time of death? In that moment, if I get angry and grasp at not dying, is that the karma that ripens and not all the good I have done before? Okay. When we create karma, so if we continue with the analogy of the mind being like a field, our different actions, and action is the meaning of the word karma, leave seeds or some kind of imprint, or for lack of a better word, energy trace. But that's a horrible expression. It's not really what it is. But it leaves that karmic seed on the mind stream. So we've accumulated many, 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 many karmic seeds in the duration of a lifetime. And some are good, some are seeds of virtuous karma, some are seeds of non-virtuous karma, then there's some seeds of neutral karma. Yeah. So at the time of death, it's not the sum total of all those seeds that determine the next life. It's like you have the garden, you put chili seeds all over, and you put daisy seeds all over. Yeah. And you put, not roses, they have thorns. What's another one? Petunias. Yeah. Or bougainvilleas. What? Bougainvillea. Okay. So you put, you have chili seeds and you have seeds of really beautiful flowers. Okay. Now, what ones are and they're all planted in there. So what ones are going to ripen? The ones you water. Okay. So we've created a lot of different actions. Those karmic seeds are in our mind, plus remaining karmic seeds from, beginningless lifetimes are all there. And then at the time of death, depending upon what we're thinking, what we're doing, as we're dying, that waters certain karmic seeds that ripen. Okay? So we could have done, a lot of virtue. And if we die with a positive mental state, kind of saying, I want to take my compassion with me into the next life and be born in a place where I can meet the Dharma when I'm early and meet, completely qualified Mahayana and Vajrayana teachers, and you have that kind of intention, and let's say you visualize the medicine Buddha, and chant the mantra while you're dying, that is going to water and, fertilize some karmic seeds of virtuous actions. Okay. And then those will be the ones that ripen, that influence exactly what body, what realm we're born into in the next life. Okay. So the other karmic seeds that don't ripen at that time don't go to waste. They're still in the mind stream. They'll ripen another time. Okay. And it's not just one karma that ripens at the time of death, because there's so many different conditions that happen when we get reborn, that different karmas can ripen and create different conditions. Okay. So does that, yeah. So if you get angry, you're lying in the hospital and they're playing, your roommate is having some obnoxious, war, movie on the TV, and you're dying, and, right over there on the TV, it's blaring and you're hearing gunshots and bombs, and this is what people call entertainment. Yeah. It's amazing. When it's real, you're scared out of your mind. When it's on the screen, it's entertaining. Does that strike you as being strange? Strikes me as being very peculiar. Anyway, so, if that's going on right next to you and you're trying to die peacefully and you get mad, like, shut up, turn off that television and let me die in peace, and you get really mad, yeah, or the video, whatever they're playing, makes you think of when you were in the war because you're a vet. And, maybe you killed some people in the war and you have intense regret about it. Or maybe you still have fear about when you remember that situation or something like that. And it brings that up in your mind. Then that's going to water, probably the seeds of some non-virtuous karma. And that's what will ripen. Okay. So that's why it's really important when someone is dying to have the environment be very, very calm, and also to encourage that person to remember the good things that they did in their life. Yeah. And to remember, the acts of kindness they did and the people they loved and the help they gave to others. So that when they die, they look back on their life and they feel good about it. And that helps them to die peacefully. This is for people without a spiritual practice. If they're Buddhists, then you talk about the Buddha Dharma Sangha, you talk about compassion and wisdom and kind heart and so on. If they're Christian, you can tell them to visualize Jesus. If they're Buddhists, they can visualize Buddha, medicine Buddha, Chenrezig, whichever Buddha figure they feel the most resonance with. Okay? So just to give you some example of how different karmas are going to ripen at the time of death. So as you probably know, we have 4 cats. Yeah. So these cats have very special lives. How many cats are there in the world who live in monasteries and get to hear Dharma teachings and get to walk around stupas and see pictures of Buddhas and hear mantras and so on, okay? So these cats, they're whoever they were in previous lives, at the time of death, what ripened was a karma to be born in an unfortunate realm. Animals are considered an unfortunate realm because unfortunate in the sense that it's very difficult to practice the Dharma as an animal. Okay. So their body, their realm they were born into was an unfortunate one arising from some negative karma. So their ethical conduct wasn't totally, A-okay. But, these cats, for a cat rebirth, these cats have it good. They never lack for anything to eat. That comes because before they've been generous. Yeah. They live in an environment where they can hear the Dharma, even though they can't understand it. So they had some connection with the Dharma in a previous life. So, they had some virtuous seeds ripen as the cooperative conditions in their life, but the one that ripened that determined what realm they were born into, that was the seed of a non-virtuous karma. Okay? And then, of course, you have other karma that's ripened that's going to, make them attracted to, one particular body or another. And all 4 of them were basically homeless cats, and they got adopted. And so there was the karma to be born as, let's see, my tree, we found her in the what's it called? In the pond, basically, in the shelter. Okay. Karuna, somebody who, Karuna's the white one that you see out there. Karuna her mother was also in the shelter and had kittens, and the lady that was kind of taking care of them brought Karuna over and said, "You want another kitten, don't you?" And we said, "Of course." Upekkha, Mudita came up to the door and just started scratching and meowing and said, "I'm homeless. Will you take me in?" And we said yes. And then Upekkha, we found under a tree down the hill, and it turned out that, it seems like maybe he belonged to the neighbors that in the next, place down the hill. But he was like thin and not in good shape when we found him. So we found him and carried him up here. He joined the family. Yeah. So each of them also had some very fortunate karma to, they were born, indigent, would you say? And then, now they're living in the lap of, they live better than some human beings do, these cats. Yeah. So, different karmas ripen that lead to different events in the lifetime. Okay. Anything about that? If you want to learn more about karma, in Foundations of Buddhist Practice, that's also downstairs, there's, I think, 3 chapters, maybe 3 chapters about karma in the towards the end of that volume. Okay, now, nothing. Shall we go back to Nagarjuna? So it's quite interesting as you learn about karma to really think about what kind of actions you could have created in a previous life to have the various situations that you've lived in and who you are and tendencies and so forth that you have this life that are the results of previous actions, and then to look at actions we've done and see what kind of results they will bring. Okay, so we are, verse 34. So this is talking about the advantages of using the antidotes. So we were, this whole section that we're on now is about creating concentration and meditation. And so it's really he's talking about if we want to develop concentration, which is an important quality to have in our Dharma practice, it's not just an issue of sitting down and, okay, now I'm going to concentrate. There's a lot of preparatory work that we have to do. And there's a lot of work, and this preparatory work, so much of it has to deal with our attachment to the 8 worldly concerns. Because when I was talking about the 3 realms of existence, we have the desire realm, the form realm, the formless realm. We are in the desire realm right now, together with the animals and various other beings. Okay? And that means that our lives center around desire for sense objects, external sense objects. So we've talked about that before. The next realm, the form realm, you are born there due to having certain levels of concentration. The formless realm, which is above that, also you're born there due to having certain levels of concentration. So right now we're in the desire realm. If we want to develop the concentration such as that in the form realm, which, if we want to, that we can be reborn in the form realm. But it doesn't bring lasting peace, because when that karma's up, then you go down to the desire realm again. But if we need, very strong, firm concentration to meditate on the path, and that those levels of concentration are form realm levels of concentration. Okay, so to bump our meditative mind, so to speak, up to the form realm level, even though we're not born there, okay, we need to overcome attachment to the objects of the desire realm. So we're not overcoming all attachment forever. Okay, this is not eradicating all the attachment, but it is suppressing the, strong attachment to objects of the desire realm, so that we can develop deeper concentration like those stages in the form realm. Okay? So, you can't be running around the desire realm chasing after everything that looks good and develop profound concentration that stays on one point. Because one point means one point. It's not, you're 1 point watching the movie and one-pointed concentration drinking your rum, and one-pointed concentration when you're gambling. That's not the meaning. It's one means you're sitting in meditation and you're on that object. That's it. Okay. So you see, we have to do a lot of preliminary work, because as you've probably all know, the last few days, we sit down to meditate, and can you stay concentrated on the object that you're meditating on without any distraction? Anybody here who hasn't had distractions? Yeah. So what distracts you? What comes up? Well, he tells us right here in the book. Okay. Yeah. So sex comes up as a distraction. Romantic relationships, what other people think about you, whether you're getting praised or blamed about things. Okay. How you want to look better or have a better social status, your health. What else did he say? Okay, well, our looks, our athletic ability, our social status, gain and loss of material things, kind words, abusive words. Okay, that's what distracts you, right? You dream about your new car, maybe you dream about your old car, or you dream about your new romantic partner, or you think about the old romantic partner. But, staying on your object of meditation is not so easy, is it? Okay. So that's why we need to do some work with, at least subduing a little bit these attachments, so that our mind isn't like a leaf in the wind going all over the place. Okay. So that's why in a previous verse, he was telling us about the 7 Arya jewels. Yeah. So remember, faith, learning, ethical conduct, generosity, integrity, consideration for others, wisdom. Which one? What am I missing? Faith, ethics, learning. Yeah. I got all 7. Okay. Yeah. Because those will act as good counteractions. That's why we went into this whole section about, bodies and really looking at what a body is, and that counteracts, all of our fascination with other people's bodies, with our own bodies. Okay, this is also, usually there's verses about meditating on impermanence, because impermanence is a very good antidote to attachment. Yeah, because all the objects we're attached to don't last. They're all changing moment to moment. So if we get attached to something that we think is really hot stuff that's going to make us eternally happy, we're going to be very disappointed, because the nature of all people, the nature of all these objects, is that they change, moment by moment. Okay, so, and that's often why we freak out, when we lose something we're attached to. Even though we may verbally say and intellectually know that it's changing, when we actually have to separate from it, when it breaks, it's like, wait, this isn't supposed to happen. Yeah, this wasn't in my calendar to happen today. And so you can see, just in our own lives, how surprised we are when different things happen, because we somehow thought that, whatever good situation we were in was going to continue and bring us continual happiness. And that isn't how things work, It's like, for example, we built this building. From the moment we started building it, it was starting to fall apart. Okay, so it isn't that you build it, then it lasts for, 5,000 years, and then it falls apart. Yeah, and during those 5,000 years, it doesn't change at all. Well, we all know through living in buildings, things break down all the time, usually at a very inconvenient time. Okay, last night the electricity went out. I think a lot of you were asleep then, but some people may not have been. And then all of a sudden, boom, no electricity. Yeah, that wasn't, and we didn't even have wind. And usually that's when we lose electricity, is when there's wind. It was very still, peaceful air last night. And then boom. So it's like this in our lives. We say, yes, everything changes, but actually inside, we don't really believe that. Yeah. Certain things we want to be totally permanent. Like that thing in Surfside, Florida. Yeah? Did that whole condominium wing went kerplunk? Yeah, did anybody have that planned? Did anybody know that was going to happen? Yeah, all these people went to bed that night just like they go to bed every other night, expecting to wake up the next morning and continue doing what they do in their life. And then suddenly, 1:30 in the morning, from 1 minute to the next, how long did it take for the building to collapse? How long? 17 seconds. Yeah, and it was 12 floors, wasn't it? Yeah. So here you are, 1:30, everything's great. Here you are, 1:30 plus 20 seconds, and you're squashed in concrete. And or your home's completely demolished with everything in it. Yeah. Nobody expected that. If anybody had said, tonight this is going to happen, most people would have gone, forget it. It's made of concrete. It has rebar. We're not in Los Angeles where they have, earthquakes. We're in Florida, nice stable ground. Why should it fall down? Yeah. Well, there were apparently a lot of reasons why it should fall down. And we just didn't know them. Okay. So the point here is, if we think about impermanence, then we realize getting attached to external things in the long term is really a dead end, because they're not going to be around forever. And even the people that who are very dear to us are not going to be around forever. Yeah. I mean, there were families in there. Some of the families were killed. Somebody sleeping in another room was not killed. Yeah. There was one man who he was over at his girlfriend's house for dinner, and then he never stayed there on weeknights. He was going to go back to his condo, and she said, "Oh, stay here, stay here." He said, "No, I have to work tomorrow. I'm going to go back." She said, "Stay here." He said, "Okay." Well, that saved his life. Yeah? It's amazing, isn't it? So, if we think about impermanence, it really helps us get clear in our mind about what is important in our life. Yeah. And it's very effective that way. And so it's very effective for cutting the attachment to external objects. Mm-hmm. So our friend in Russia who has COVID and pneumonia, who was now recovering, I wrote him today and I said, I hope that this sickness is, helping you clarify what's important in your life. And then I gave him some hints about what he should do. It's called unasked for advice. But it just came out. It was like, I'm like writing to him, and it's like, this is the perfect time to say this. So I said it. And I said at the beginning, I don't know if I should say this, but I'm saying it. And so we'll see what he says if he talks to me again. No, I was encouraging him to do something quite virtuous that he's been putting off for a long, long time. So, yeah, you think I should encourage him?
Might as well get people when they're most vulnerable. That's the door. And by the way.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. Yeah. I told him a story about how I wanted that, and, it wasn't possible for many years. And then, he has an opportunity and he isn't taking it. And we'll see. Okay. I try and refrain myself and not give unasked for advice, but sometimes it's impossible. You just got to say it. Okay, so here we are. We talked about that. Okay, so the advantages of using the antidotes to counteract attachment. Of course, we have to counteract anger and all the other afflictions too. But so many things start out, the origin is the ignorance that thinks that we exist in a way that we don't. And then attachment to that self. And so, attachment to that self that says, I want to be happy. And I've got to get what makes me happy. And so that's the first thing that arises out of ignorance. Then when our seeking happiness and the objects that we think give us happiness, when there's interferences with that, then we get upset. Then that's when anger comes. Okay. Then when we do get it and we think we're better than other people, arrogance comes. Then when other people have more than we do, we get jealous. And then, all these other afflictions keep piling on. But, he's spending so much time here on attachment because after anger, that's the one that fuels so much of our life. Mm-hmm. Okay, so Nagarjuna says, verse 34, of all great wealth, contentment is supreme, said he who taught and guided gods and men. That's referring to the Buddha, the teacher of gods and men, like in the verse that we chant at the beginning. Yeah. So always be content. If you know this, yet have no wealth, true riches you will have found. Okay, so of all the valuable things you can have in life, of all the wealth you can have, inner contentment is the greatest of them. Okay, because when you have inner contentment, you are satisfied with what you have, and your life is peaceful. If you don't have an inner contentment, it doesn't matter if you're rich or if you're poor, your mind is still unhappy. Okay? We know, of course, if you're poor, we can understand why people's minds are unhappy. They don't have what they need to live. They don't feel secure. Do rich people feel secure? No, they always need more. Even if you became a billionaire during one of the .com things, you never have enough money. Yeah, Jeff Bezos always needs more. Huh? And what's his name? Gates? Why can't I? What's his name? Gates. I can't. Bill Gates. Yeah. Why can't I? I'm bad at names. Anyway, Bill Gates, needs more. Everybody needs more. Yeah, they don't have contentment. So, if you still have this need for more, and it doesn't matter whether you have 1 million or 2 million or 10 million, you still don't have that inner wealth. Okay. Whereas, some people who are poor have that kind of contentment. Yeah. And when I lived in Dharamsala in India I think I've told you, did I tell the story about visiting the Tibetan nuns in this course? Okay, I told it recently. Yeah, so there were some older Tibetan nuns. Tibetan nuns, by the way, are low class. The monks, high class, well respected, lots of offerings, well supported. Nuns, So there were some Tibetan nuns in the community, and I got to know different ones. And one day, a couple of them invited me to their hut, which was their home. And it was on the side of the mountain. His Holiness's quarters were up here, and Namgyal Monastery and IBD and stuff were up here. And theirs was on the side of the mountain, little hut made of dirt. The roof, they had a high-class roof. It was ghee. Ghee is this butter-like substance that came in big tins, big square tins like this. So their high-class roof was cut up ghee tins. Okay? So you cut it up and then you stretch it out. And in the monsoon weather, ghee tins, they're much better than the thatching that many people have. Of course, they're a little bit noisy when it rains. Yeah. But, so they asked me over. I went inside. We sat on cushions on the dirt floor. They had a kerosene stove, which also, that means they weren't totally dirt poor. The people who were dirt poor didn't have a kerosene stove. They had a little made out of mud kind of stove. So, so they made me tea, and we had tea, and they pulled out their jar of kapse, which are Tibetan treats that they make around New Year's. Yeah. And these two older nuns, they were so happy living in this little place. I mean, just talking to them, they were really very friendly, very content, very satisfied. Yeah. Some people really crave clothing and status and all. One of my teachers, Geshe Thubten, he was a meditator up in the mountains and, again, lived in one of these mud huts up in the mountains. And he got sent to Italy. His Holiness wanted him to go to Italy to teach. I was at the Dharma Center when he came. But anyway, while he was in Dharamsala, he would circumambulate the temple in the evening. That's what a lot of people did. The big lingkor around the big temple, for those of you who've been there. And, Geshe-la Shemdop was kind of old and stained and disheveled, and he had a few whiskers sticking out, and his socks were always old and they were always falling down. And he had these really scuffed up brown shoes that were falling apart. And his Zen was old, and and so he didn't look like anybody. Yeah. You would have thought he was just some old monk who, whatever. And nobody noticed him when he was doing Karwa. But he was an incredible practitioner, and he was satisfied. Yeah, he lived up in the mountains. Sometimes when he was doing the Korwa around the temple, he was living down, but most of the time he was living up. And, he was quite satisfied. When he came to Italy, the tradition is you treat your teachers very well, and you try and give them the best that you can. So, and the Italians love doing this kind of thing. Okay. So there was a little villetta where, he was going to stay, and they had china, dishes, silverware made out of silver. Okay. Really nice cups with, designs painted on them and golden edges and things like that. And, they brought Geshe-la in to have lunch, and he sat down and he looked at this stuff. And he said, "Get rid of this and bring me plastic plates." Yeah, like the old beat up plastic plates, okay? We made him in the meditation hall, we made him a nice seat, high seat, some brocade, some nice this and that, and comfortable pillows and stuff like that. And he came in and he did his prostrations and he looked for where to sit, and we pointed him up there. And he took one big cushion that was on the throne, put it on the ground, and sat on it. Okay, this is the way he was. Yeah, and he was completely satisfied with what he had. Yeah, he didn't want more and better and, look good and, any of this kind of stuff. So he kind of taught by his example. It was hard in Italy, I don't know how many people really understood what he was teaching by his example. But yeah. And, in terms of his practice, he kept everything very private. He did not talk about his practice or his experiences. He didn't brag about, I realized this or I saw this or that. Nothing. Okay. And even his attendant, who would carry some supplies up from time to time, all of his objects, holy objects and things, these were all tucked away. Even his attendant didn't see them. Okay. So, he really, as you can see, he made a big impression on me about what the meaning of contentment is. Okay. Yeah, I was quite fortunate. I had really good teachers. Okay. So the verse is saying, the best wealth we can have is contentment. So always be content. So we can't say, I'm going to be content. I'm going to make myself content. Get rid of this craving. I'm content. I am content with what I have. No, you can't tell yourself to be content. That's why all these things have to be done with wisdom. It's not a thing of pushing ourselves to do a certain activity because that's what we're supposed to do. It's about having wisdom that understands why it is beneficial to do something and then doing that. Yeah. So my friend that I gave some advice to, I'm hoping at this time when he is recovering from COVID, that is a time where his wisdom about, what's important in life will be active, and then with wisdom he can, make a certain choice. But I don't know. Yeah. But this is often illness, often shakes up our life enough for us to think what is really important. And very often, what is really important is not what we have been doing. Because we just get carried away with what society expects of us, what our family expects of us, with all the things that we have bought into. Yeah. We're raised with different expectations and we bought into them. And then we try and, live that kind of life that we've been raised to live. Yeah. Except for the people you see here. None of us were raised to be Buddhist monastics, and all of us face some, what do you call it, blowback? Blowback? Pushback. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah. If you have a clear mind and you know what's important and you're content, then you really have a good life. Okay, then the next verse is verse 35. That's the disadvantages of not having that antidote. Here the antidote is meaning contentment. Okay. So Nagarjuna says to the king, kind sir, to own a lot brings so much misery. There's no such grief for those with few desires. The more the Naga lords possess of heads, the more their headaches, the more they have of cares. Okay, let's translate this into English. the last two lines, they're talking about the Nagas. The Nagas are these creatures in the animal realm that are like serpents, yeah, and they're usually around ponds and streams and things like that. And they have a lot of riches. You know, it's said that the Nagas in the bottom of the ocean have, you know, these beautiful jewels. So the idea is some of the Nagas have many, many heads. They have a jewel on top of each head. Yeah. Jewels weigh a lot. You know, they're rocks. Okay. Aren't they? Yeah. So you have these rocks on top of your head that everybody thinks are beautiful and they're jealous of you because you have them. But when you have a heavy rock on top of your head, what do you have? You have a headache. Okay, so the wealthier you are and the bigger jewels you have as a Naga, the worse headache you have. Okay, to translate that into our modern existence, when you have a computer, then you also have computer hell. When you have a smartphone, you also have smartphone hell. When you have a red-hot sports car, you have red-hot sports car hell. Okay, whatever we have, whatever we're craving, yeah, it's going to bring us into a certain hell realm. You know, hell realm figuratively here. Why? Because it's going to break. And it's going to go out of style. And you've become dependent on it. And like I said, you know, things usually break at the most inopportune time. When you're in a hurry, when you're doing something important. Yeah, I mean, that's when your car breaks down. That's when your computer crashes. So the point here is, the more desires we have and more things we get, the more problems we're going to have when those things break or get stolen or something else happens to them. Okay? True or not true in your life experience? True. Isn't it? As soon as you buy your ideal house, the things in it start to break. Okay? As soon as you found the clothing that you think is really great, you know, and you find some more beautiful rocks that you want to buy and wear, you know, a rock around your neck, a rock in your ears, you know, the more problems you're going to have. This is how things are. So that's why he said, kind sir, to own a lot brings so much misery. You know, when you have a lot of stuff, then you have to take care of a lot of stuff. Yeah, and especially when you have your own house, you tend to collect a lot of stuff that you probably have forgotten you have because most of it is in cupboards and closets and attics and basements. But the thought of giving it away, no. Okay. When I lived in Seattle, how many of you were there when I did the exercise of go through and, you know, just take one closet or one dresser. I didn't say your whole house. And go through everything and everything that you haven't used in a year or two. Yeah. Put it in a pile and you haven't used it, so give it away. So people came back the next week and they had such interesting stories. One person was saying, I found a t-shirt from when I went to Mexico and I even forgot I had it. But when I saw it, it reminded me of that trip to Mexico and I had such a good time on that trip. so I don't want to give it away. Even though she had forgotten she had it and hadn't thought about it in a couple of years. Yeah. Some people, their pile of things, got into a bag or a box. With some people, that bag or box made it to the front door. With maybe one person or two people, it made it into the trunk of the car. But nobody got it into the hands of the charity. Yeah? So it was a very interesting exercise, even though so many people said, I had totally forgotten I had that object. Yeah. And it was just, it's like nothing to me, but I might need it in the future, or it's a sentimental object, or it's, whatever it was, couldn't give it away. Okay. So you can see the more you have to take care of. Yeah. And the more stuff, it just becomes clutter. Okay. That's why the monastics here, every year we change rooms. Yeah. The idea is that then you clean your stuff out and you give stuff away each year. You return all the library books that have been sitting on your bookshelf that you've forgotten about, So you do this. But this last year, people got very clever. Okay. They started taking their mattresses with them and their blankets with them and the bed frames with them. And, all those things were supposed to be left, but, you get attached to different things and you got to take it with you. Okay. That will be the only year that happens. Yeah. Okay. Then the next verse, verse 36. So this is asking us to give up distractions that we have by pleasurable indulgence. How we pleasurably indulge, or we indulge ourselves with pleasures. So what's the first thing to be given up? Your spouse. So I don't think Nagarjuna is a divorce lawyer. He's not trying to profit off of this. Okay. He's talking to a king who, has requested teachings. Okay. So listen to this. This is a little bit dated, okay? A murderess who sides with enemies, a queen who holds her husband in contempt, a thieving wife who steals the smallest thing. It's these three kinds of wives you must avoid. Okay, so it could go for husbands as well. Yeah? Okay, what?
It could, but it doesn't say that.
No, because he's talking to a king who's a heterosexual man. If he were talking to you directly, looking in your eyes, what would he say? Okay, so don't marry a murderer, okay? But you see, we got, something came to us recently from a woman and her boyfriend was strangling her. And, she separates from him. He apologizes. She forgives him and goes back. It happens again. This time she goes to the police and reports him. But then she feels guilty, like she's causing him problems. As if he weren't causing her problems. Okay. So, people get teamed up with all sorts of people. And it's sometimes it's quite sad. Yeah. Okay, so don't marry a murderer or anybody else who sides with people who are trying to harm you. Okay, don't marry a queen or a king or somebody who holds you in contempt. Okay? Some people do marry spouses, yeah, that hold the other spouse in contempt and look down on them and say all sorts of things. Okay? Don't marry somebody who steals, supposedly from you. How many, there's a lot of court cases. When people get divorced and they're trying to separate their property, and it's like, well, when you bought something, it was a verbal agreement. Nobody even thought about it, that it belonged to both of you, even though one party paid for it because you were just married and you loved each other and this is great. And now you're getting divorced and you want half of it, and the partner who paid for it says, no way, I paid for it. Yeah. You have mediation clients like that?
Every day.
Yeah.
All day, every day.
Yeah. And it's painful, because at the beginning people think this is wonderful. And, so often there's lots of red flags and we are infatuated and we ignore the red flags. Yeah. So, not just romantic relationships, but all sorts of relationships. There could be lots of red flags. And because, we want something very badly, we just ignore the red flags until they hit us in the face. Okay, then the next verse, there's 37, okay, is the kind of wife you want to get. Okay, so women, please do not flip out. This was dated, from ancient India. Okay, so a wife who like a sister follows you. Affectionate like a true and loving friend. That's not so bad. Supportive like a mother. Obedient like a maid. She must be honored like a family god. Okay, so you be obedient like a maid, and then they honor you. Okay, so listen to the commentary here. A wife who is like a sister emulating her brother. She follows her husband without scorning what he says, and she dare not compete with him. And I don't mean like consciously compete, just even do anything that might excel him. Okay. A wife who is like a close friend with whom one gets on very well and who takes care of one. She is a true friend. That's good. You should marry somebody who's a friend. A wife who is like a mother wanting to help her child. She babies you. Her desire is to help her husband. So that's what she thinks about all day and all night, how to help this guy. Okay, and a wife who is like a maid, obeying when one makes her happy. So you got to make her happy first, and then she obeys. But I think he's hearing, I don't have to make her happy. She just has to obey. Okay. I didn't finish reading the line. And a wife who is like a maid, obeying when one makes her happy. She submits to one's authority. Okay. I sat next to a woman on a flight who was a Jehovah's Witness. And she was telling me that she and her husband were quarreling a lot because she was very independent minded. And this was before they became Jehovah's Witnesses. They were quarreling a lot. But when they became Jehovah's Witness, part of the religion is that the man is the head of the household. Yeah? And he answers to God, and she answers to her husband. So she just decided she was going to do that and answer to her husband and do whatever he wanted. And she said they get along so much better now. So if you're the kind of person who can do that and that makes you happy and feel fulfilled, great if that creates the harmony in your marriage. Yeah, any of the women here think that would work for you? Yeah. Huh? Yeah, we wouldn't be here if we thought that would work for us. Okay? So such wives will not dishonor one's family, and so are to be relied upon or honored like a family god. Yeah, and in some cultures, if you don't do that, then you are honorably killed in an honor killing. There was just an article I read. What country was it? I can't remember which country it was. It was one of the Muslim countries. And a family, kind of not super well-to-do, but a middle-class family. As it turned out, their daughter disappeared. And then the people who were emptying the garbage can found her chopped up body in bags in the garbage can. Okay, so the police, of course, were called. And they go to meet the parents because it was, they did a DNA check and the parents lived in that building. And the parents said, yeah, we killed her. She was dishonoring the family. And then they did some more investigation into the family. And a few years back, this same couple, he was like 81 and she was 70-something. They had killed their son-in-law. And, it was initially their son who got killed, who was dismembered in the garbage. And then they did the research, and then they found that a few years back they had killed their son-in-law and also their daughter. Why? Because they were not living good lives, and they were supposedly shaming the family. Yeah, because they drank. The son was, he worked in film. He had just made a film and invited his parents to see the film he made. But they didn't approve of his life and his ethics. And they killed their own child. That's amazing, isn't it? Yeah, so, the cultural norms can be very strong. And cultural norms are not even innate afflictions. They are things that we learn in this life. Yeah, we are not born with the mind that says, my family's honor is more important than their lives. That's something you learn. Yeah. What is it, the McCalls and the Hatfields? The Hatfields and the McCoys, same thing, The honor is more important than your life. And if we look, for many people, they will give up their life to save their honor. Yeah. Reputation is more important than even the life to some people. Okay? And you learn this by, according to your culture, how people around you think. Yeah. Yeah, in this culture where this older couple was, they got arrested. Yeah. Some cultures, you do honor killing, you don't get arrested. Yeah, in Afghanistan, you do. Yeah, nothing happens to you. Okay, verse 38, giving up attachment to food. Okay, we'll skip that verse. Verse 39. Verse 39, giving up attachment to sleep. We'll skip that one also. Now, maybe we better go back to the one of food. Now, here, listen carefully. It is a different translation of a prayer that we always say. Take food as medicine in the right amount, without attachment, without hatefulness. Don't eat for vanity, for pride, or ego's sake. Eat only for your body's sustenance. What is our translation of that verse?
By seeing this food as medicine, I will consume it without attachment.
Complaint. Yeah. Not to increase my arrogant strength or good looks, but solely to sustain my life. Okay? So what that verse we're reciting every day is from Nagarjuna. That the verse about the may all beings fulfill the two collections of merit, that's also from, I think that's from Precious Garland, but also by Nagarjuna. Okay, so take food as medicine. Yeah. Ice cream definitely cures your illnesses. And chocolate. Yeah, those two are the best medicines. In the right amount, in other words, a lot. Without attachment. Well, we'll skip that one. Without hatefulness. Okay. Why does it say hatefulness? Because maybe you want to compete with your enemies, so you want to build up your body and make it strong, so you eat certain foods to do that. Yeah. Okay. Don't eat for vanity, to make yourself look good, for pride, okay, or for ego's sake. Yeah. Because remember, this is a time period where, not so many people were overweight. People were poor. And so if you had enough money to afford food and you were plump, your family was higher status. Yeah, because it indicated you were wealth. This is why so many of the paintings, European paintings, from the Middle Ages, people are very round because that indicates that they were wealthy people. Mm-hmm. Yeah, amazing how societal values change. Yeah, now you're supposed to look like a toothpick. Yeah. Yeah, not so pointed, but kind of, that's how much space you're supposed to take up, Okay. So you're not supposed to eat for vanity or hatred, so you can gain strength and beat up your enemies. But, and not just to take care of your body because it's me and I want to be healthy and I'm the most important one. But with an awareness that we're eating simply to sustain our life. Why are we sustaining our life? Because with a precious human life like this one, it depends on having a healthy body. Then we can use that to practice the Dharma. But they say if we only use our life to create non-virtue, then there's no use doing a long life practice. Because, you know, what do you want? More time to create non-virtue? Okay, give up attachment to sleep. Oh, knowledgeable one. Yeah? We look like those flowers. We wilt, you know, just like the sunflowers in the heat. We will. Yeah. We were in a teaching. One of my teachers likes to start the teaching at 11 at night and go to 5 in the morning. So apparently one time there was someone who, this guy was an old Dharma friend of mine. And, you know, so he was sitting in a chair, you know, listening to the teachings. I don't know what time it was in the morning, you know, 3 or 4 a.m. And he fell asleep and he fell off the chair. Yeah. Okay. O knowledgeable one, recite all day and in the first and last watches of the night. Then in between these two, sleep mindfully so that your slumbers are not spent in vain. Okay. So he's saying, when he says recite all day, he's meaning, you know, study the sutras, study the scriptures, try and practice, do, you know, your recitations and so on. And then the night, you know, the whole day, 24 hours, is divided into 6 portions, 3 in the daytime, 3 in the night. And each portion, 6 into 24 is 4 hours. So at nighttime, you have the first 4 hours of the night. You can sleep then. No, the first 4 hours, you're supposed to be awake practicing. The middle 4 hours, you can sleep. And then the last 4 hours, you're awake. Okay, that's what is prescribed if you can do it. Okay, I don't think many people here can do it. But what it's getting at is if, you know, don't oversleep because you wind up sleeping your whole life away. And then you have no time for study and practice. And who knows what in the world you're dreaming. Okay. So if we can shorten the amount of time we sleep, then that's considered very good, you know. If you get totally irascible because you haven't slept enough, then you need more sleep, yeah. But the thing is, don't sleep more than what you actually need to be rested. That doesn't mean that you don't set the alarm clock, yeah. Being rested doesn't mean that you sleep until you naturally wake up. If I did that, you wouldn't see me very often. Okay, I don't care what's going on, I have to use an alarm clock. Even after the hip surgery, I was using an alarm clock to get up because otherwise, you know, I'm a goner. And I don't want to spend my life just lying in bed sleeping. Okay, so it's saying, you know, monitor your sleep. Sleep what you need, but not more than what you need. Okay, and then, it's 5:30. Questions. We have time for a few questions. I didn't cover very many verses today. Yeah.
The verse is about a wife. It doesn't sound like he's saying give up your wife. It's like he's advocating that he look for a certain kind of wife.
Right, right. He's not telling the king to be a monk. Yeah. He's giving him advice so that he can be a good king. Yeah. Yeah. In Precious Garland, there he gave the king a lot of advice. Remember about giving up certain mental things. There were a list of 57 things to give up. And then he, was it that? Anyway, at the end of, giving some advice to the king, he said, if you find it too much to do this kind of practice as a lay person, then get ordained. Okay. So he does say that to the king in Precious Garland, but not so far in this book. Yeah. The king might have thrown him out if he said, give up your wife. Any other questions?
What's been key for you to develop contentment in your own practice?
I think one of the things for me is to look at the things I'm craving and then realize that I've had most of them. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt. It didn't bring ultimate happiness. And, my interests are different now. Yeah. I think it's a combination, one, of reducing attachments to external objects, and two, changing your priorities, what you really want out of life. Yeah, I think you have to do both together. If you just do the one and you should yourself a lot, I shouldn't be so attached. I shouldn't eat chocolate. I shouldn't go out on dates. I shouldn't do this. I should be renounced. I should be satisfied. If your Dharma practice is a bunch of shoulds, you're going to be really unhappy because there's no wisdom that is making the choice. It's just shoulds. And shoulds lack wisdom, mostly. Okay? So I think, as we learn more about the Dharma and look at our mind and our priorities in life change, then some of the things that interested you before just don't interest you anymore. Yeah? Okay. So then it's not a thing of like, oh, but I really want and I can't. The celibacy thing, that was challenging in some ways. Yeah. Not just that, but also, having somebody who loved me and, supported me and everything like that. But then I looked and it's like, this is 100% selfishness. Yeah. And that's basically what it is, 100% selfishness. So I kept reminding myself about that. It's like, oh, you've been there, done that. Why do you want to do that again? No. Okay. I'm not saying everybody should be a monastic. Yeah, so the lay people, chill out. I'm not telling you to ordain. But if you want to, we have our hair clippers ready.